Hello there, and welcome to another version of the Inspiring Entrepreneurs series. This morning I'm going to be talking to Helen Lindop. Hello, Helen, it's lovely to meet you.
Hello, nice to be here.
For those of you who are watching live, Helen has had some trouble with her PC, and we're actually doing this broadcast via her mobile. So do excuse us if we get a bit of a wobble on. We've had a few technical difficulties getting connected, but I'm sure it's all going to be fine. So, Helen, start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be in business.
Okay, well, it's a long story. I mean, what I'm doing is creating some online social media and online marketing training for small businesses, and I've got a long background in training. I started off as a software trainer I worked out as 1997, so ancient history in internet terms, isn't it? And right from the beginning, I saw the potential to do this sort of remotely from a distance over the internet, but obviously the technology wasn't there for a long time. And now it is, so there's a huge potential there, and I think there's also been a real explosion of the very small and micro businesses, particularly since the last recession, so that the demand is there, and that a lot of them are very confused about online marketing and social media. And as you know, that the world of small businesses has totally changed. You absolutely have to be online these days. And a lot of these businesses just don't have the budget to get the sort of day-long training that we used to do. And they want the training just in time. So that's something I can help with.
Yeah, I think one of the great things that has changed and made it much more accessible is that people can get training in bite-sized chunks. And as you say, they don't have to leave their own home office or anything like that to get it. So tell us how you started, how you actually developed the idea of the business club that you're running now.
Well, I really spent a good few years blogging with the small business, the micro business community, really. And having been a freelancer for a number of years myself, I really understand the challenges that you have when you're just trying to do everything yourself and keep on top of everything. And like I said, I knew I could help. I wanted to help, but it was just finding the sort of format and the depth, the length, the kind of structure of the format of the training that they needed. Because the last thing I wanted to do was just overwhelm people and give them too much. Or not give them enough and just get them started and just end up wasting their time. So what I picked up was that people wanted sort of a drip feed, so they wanted a little bit of training on a fairly wide range of subjects, because a lot of the time they didn't know what they didn't know. So they didn't want to sign up for a huge course on, let's say, Facebook, because that would be expensive and time consuming. They didn't know if Facebook was going to be their thing anyway. So what I wanted to do was produce a sort of a little monthly club where you could dip in, and hopefully there would be something there for you every month. But if this month wasn't what you were focusing on right now, you could leave that and come back to it in 3 months, and maybe do a bit more work on what we were doing last month. So it's sort of a balance of flexibility and small chunks and drip feeding, and that's why I thought the business club would work. And I've had some great feedback already.
That's great, good. Yeah, it's always a problem, isn't it, when they know what they don't know, so they don't know what to ask for or what's going to work and what isn't. So that's a really good solution. So let's focus now on other people who are thinking, I'm at home, or I'd prefer to be at home rather than commuting or whatever, and I want to create a product from the information that I own, the knowledge that I have, and I want to sell it online. So let's go right back to basics. Where do you think is a good place for people to start with that kind of idea?
For most people, I think what most people tend to get completely overwhelmed, because there's a lot of moving parts in that, if you see. So you've got the actual coming up with the content, you've got the sitting down and finding the time to do it. If you're getting into video, you've got to either learn a bit of video editing, which is not hugely difficult. You don't need to have a 5-year career with the BBC or anything like that, but there's a learning curve, so you have to learn it or pay someone to do it for you. Just simply getting the background of a video right is a bit of a challenge if it's not something you've done before. So what I would say is, pick something that you feel you can do without too much difficulty and without too much of a learning curve, because it's always going to be more challenging than you think at the beginning. And for most people, that's text. For most people, that is get something done, either in PDF format, or you can, if you can do a Kindle book, that's a really good way to start. Because I think the first time you do it, a lot of it is just having the momentum and the stamina to create the thing from start to finish, and not get stuck in the middle and end up with a half-finished project on your hard drive for months. That's the real challenge when people are getting started.
Yeah, yeah. I think we've all been there, haven't we? So what you're suggesting is that obviously the easiest way to start is with text rather than multimedia. And even with text, you can still put pictures in to make it look more interesting, and dress it up a bit, can't you, to look attractive?
You can, and you can even put in links to, say, a YouTube video or a hangout that you've done before, so you can have the main. You're selling the main bulk of the product as an entire product, but you can add value to it by saying, if you want to know more, I've recorded this as a YouTube video, or if you want to know more, go to this substantial blog post that I've written, and that will fill you in. So just because it's text, that doesn't have to be the whole thing, although you have to always be careful to make sure you're giving people value in what you sell them.
Yeah,
you can't sell them the product and then say, okay, the rest of it's free on my blog, because that's not going to make.
I'm going to go back a couple of steps now, and think about business basics. So before people start down this route, the real thing to do is to do a bit of market research, isn't it? Make sure that there is actually an audience for what you want to create. Did you set about creating an audience before you launched your product, or did you have the product there and then find an audience for it?
Yeah, first of all, incredibly important, because the huge risk with it, I mean, it's financially, it's not a big risk, obviously, but the biggest risk with this is that you'll invest 6 months of your time in this and create something that nobody wants. And I think everybody who's done any product creation has done that at least once, and it's quite soul destroying. So yeah, definitely research is really important, and I think I did a bit of both. I blogged a bit. I spent a lot of time in sort of Facebook groups and on Twitter and listening to people, and then I put together a kind of outline of a book, and then I went back and reviewed it, and it was a sort of a two-way thing. And also, research is no longer a one-way street where you go and look at what people are saying. You go and talk to people. You say, what are your problems? What can I help you with? You listen for the questions you get asked over and over again, because those are the good clues as to what people really want to know. And I think the other distinction I found that was really important is that there are things that people want to know, and there are things that people want to pay for, and they're sometimes quite different. So sometimes people will cheerfully read a blog post for free on something, but they wouldn't really be prepared to pay for that, and you need to really nail down what they're likely to pay for.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a different kind of business model as well, isn't there? There's the free stuff that we all do when we're blogging and we're establishing ourselves as an expert in a particular field, and then there's this thing that's emerged called freemium. So you have a premium product, but it is free, but it kind of leads people into paying for things. So has that been your experience?
I see people doing it. I think it's quite a difficult thing to start with, because if you're a beginner, it's really hard to know where to draw the line between what's free and what to pay for. What I see people doing is giving away a ton of stuff for free to get people kind of into that funnel, and then they struggle to add the paid product on top, because it's not that they've given it all away for free, because there's always more you can give. It's just you don't then have the time and the stamina and the I don't know, the kind of the infrastructure to give something paid on top, because the free stuff is taking up all your time. So I think it's all. I think it's probably safer to at least have a plan for a paid product, and then think, okay, what free stuff am I going to put in to lead up to that, than it is to say I'm going to give away a load of free stuff and then, oh, what can I actually sell on top of it? Because often then the selling becomes a kind of afterthought, and that means you end up working hard and not really making any money.
So it's kind of starting with the end in mind. If you want to end up selling a paid-for product, then you go back and work out the steps to lead up to that.
I would start with that aim. Now, what I've found is the paid product will always change because you put something out there and then you think, well, actually, that's not quite what people want. I'm going to tweak it a bit. I'm going to add a bit to it. I'm going to chuck some bonuses in. So you can't really decide exactly what you're going to do right from the beginning because you have to respond to people's needs. But I think you always have to really start with, okay, how am I going to make money from this from the beginning? Otherwise, you forget about the making money bit, realise then you're spending all your time on something that you're not making any money from, and I do see that quite a bit. So be very focused on how this is going to make you an income.
Yeah. What about the other model, turning this on its head a bit, that of attracting a huge audience to your free offerings in order to attract advertisers and get the revenue that way?
I know bloggers. I mean, I've actually coached some bloggers that use that model. I think it can work, and well, obviously it does work. The thing that you need with that is a huge amount of traffic, and that can be quite hard, and that can be really quite hard work to get that and to maintain that. So you're looking into blogging every single day. You're looking into doing an awful lot of networking and with other bloggers, that kind of thing. And I think if that's your thing, if you enjoy it, if you can sustain that over several years, because it's certainly not a quick thing, then that could work really well for you. Personally, I don't, that's not the kind of thing I enjoy doing, but then again, with a background in training, it just is more of a natural fit to me to create products and sell my own products. I know not everyone's like that. I think for some people, the thought of creating a series of ebooks or a series of video courses, and it's got to be a series if you're talking about making a living from it. That is too daunting for a lot of people, and I can completely understand that. So I think it's about picking the model that works for you and accepting that whatever you do, there is going to be a lot of marketing involved.
Yes. Yeah, the ones I was thinking of particularly with the advertising thing is some of the YouTube series. So there's Sid Foods, which was a bunch of guys who started just swapping recipes when they were all at university, and you know how to make stuff because none of them could cook. And over as you say, a number of years, 5 or 6 years, they have a huge following. You know, millions and millions of followers, and therefore they do earn revenue from their YouTube videos. And they don't sell a thing. You know, it is all about the revenue that comes from the advertising. And other people who do makeup and that kind of thing. So I guess it is the B2C thing. I think is easier to attract a huge audience rather than the B2B. So I think, as you say, if you're in training, especially for businesses, you really need to be looking at the paid-for model, don't you?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think that the key thing about that example is that they were doing what they enjoyed and what came easily to them, so it wasn't a chore. And I think that's really important.
So, having established what you know, so the knowledge that you can sell, and the format that you're going to produce it in. So start off simple and then add aspects of different media into it to make it interesting. How do you then go about getting it online and doing that first bit of marketing? So is it essential, for example, to have a website?
It depends. Again, all depends on how you do it. Really, I think it's always a good idea to at least have a blog, because you're effectively giving away free samples of what you do on a blog, and also you need it. I would highly recommend building a mailing list, because particularly the way things are going at the moment, and part of that is the sort of EU VAT situation, which I won't get into because I know you've got another hangout on that. It's making, and also just the way technology is moving, I think it's making a lot more sense to use a platform to put your products on. So, for example, if you're starting out, I think it makes much more sense to get a book on Kindle than it is to get it on your own website. And I think it makes more sense to maybe use a platform like Udemy for video courses than it is to put it on your own site. And just because you've got access to more traffic there, it looks more professional. People kind of trust putting their credit card details into those sites more than they would into just a small person's site, and so on.
Okay. Could you just repeat the name of the video one and perhaps spell it for people?
Yep, Udemy. So it's Udemy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's sorry. Go on.
And if you think of that as the kind of Kindle store, but for video courses. Now there are others, but that's the big one. So yeah, I would look at that one first, and that's certainly something I'm looking into doing very soon myself.
Okay.
But like
So you produce you produce the content, and either, as you say, put it on a site that sells video or a site that sells text like Kindle, and those people actually sell it for you. Is that right?
Yeah, in those two examples, there are others and they work in different ways, but in those two examples, basically what you do is they effectively publish it for you. So you put your content up there, they will, I don't want to say sell it for you, because you will need to do your own marketing. Like it isn't just you give them the content and then you get a load of money. It's not that simple. So you do have to do your own marketing as well. But yeah, you put it up there, and then once a month, assuming you've made any sales, they will send you a check, which will be a percentage of the sales that you've made, which is also nice and easy, because the bookkeeping is easier than just getting lots of little bits of money in your PayPal account, which is the alternative if you sold it from your own site.
Okay. So people can do this without necessarily having their own website, and creating a platform themselves. There are existing platforms that you can use quite easily.
There are, but I would, once you've got the time, I would make it a priority to get your own site, even if it's just a blog. Because then, like I said, you can give away free samples of your work. So, here's a free video of a course I've just made. Here's a free chapter of my book, kind of thing. And you can build an audience through your blog, or you could perhaps just do it on YouTube. The other reason I would have your own site and list is because it's not good to be too reliant on any particular platform, because if they change their terms and conditions and it no longer works for you, then all your clients are on that platform. If you can get a mailing list of your own that you can back up, that is yours, then that's good insurance just in case anything does change. This is not a great idea to totally build your business on someone else's platform.
Yeah. I think this business of having a mailing list is something that a lot of bloggers and a lot of people who start a website just overlook, really, the importance of that. I think it's one of the things that it's so easy to do. To link your site to MailChimp and get people to sign, and then you've got, as you say, you've got your own real estate then, exactly. and nobody can take it away from you. It's not like building an audience on Facebook or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So what else do people need to be thinking about, Helen? You've mentioned taking money, selling things through other sites. If people choose to sell something on their own site, what's the best way to take money from, for payments there?
Well, this has all changed. If in theory, it's changed for anybody in the world with the changes to the UK, the EU VAT situation that happened a few days ago. So I would suggest, if this is just my advice, and things are changing still with this situation, it's just my advice. If you're starting out, if you don't already have a VAT registered business, if you're not already VAT registered, I would personally stick to the marketplaces I mentioned, because if you start selling from your site, you're getting into collecting evidence of where your customers are coming from VAT purposes, and having to pay, even if you're below the VAT threshold, and having to potentially pay VAT on your EU sales, which is just messy. And as I said, when you're starting to create products, you've got so many things to think about. If that's something you can easily put to one side and forget about, I would put it to one side and forget about it by using one of these marketplaces. So up until December, I was using a WordPress plugin, WordPress e-commerce plugin on my site, and I was totally happy with that. It was no problem. But for me personally, it's just not worth it anymore to do that. I don't want to be bogged down in bookkeeping and paperwork and admin and stuff. I want to be creating and promoting my courses. I don't want to be messing about with VAT. So unless you've got a really good reason to pay your VAT yourself, I wouldn't go there. I would stick with the marketplaces.
Okay, and I guess sorry, I think I just seem to have gone all blue. I'm really struggling with the technology today. um, so the oh, this is really confusing. I don't know why it keeps doing that. How very odd. Anyway, so I guess the lesson there is that if anyone is has a business that's big enough for them to be paying the VAT, or they're looking at that kind of thing, then really they should be employing a bookkeeper or getting some advice from someone else to deal with that. But for the time being, what's the solution that you've come up with for that, Helen?
Right. Well, this again, like I said, the whole. I don't know if you know anything about the VAT situation. There's a large campaign by micro businesses at the moment saying that it's impossible to actually comply 100%. Because the legislation is behind how the technology works. So this is really my own opinion that I've come up with from ploughing through the whole thing. And what I've done is I've gone with a platform called ClickBank, which is an American platform, but it's one of the very few that have stayed in step with the EU VAT laws right from 2003 as far as I'm aware. So it became an issue for them then. And basically what they do is they resell my online business club for me. So it's like I wholesale it to them and they retail it for me. They take a percentage, which I don't think there's a definite percentage. It's not quite straightforward, but it comes in at about 5 to 8%, something like that. So I don't pay them unless I actually sell something. So every subscription that's sold, they take a percentage, and then I think every couple of weeks they will give me the remainder, if you like. So they are retailing it for me, and they take the VAT off the customer, and they pay the VAT to the relevant EU government. So I don't need to, because I don't want to be dealing with that. I mean, if it comes to a point when I have a bookkeeper to deal with that for me and I'm VAT registered, then yeah, we'll look into that then. But right now, that's not something I want to get into.
Okay. If anybody listening is totally confused by all this stuff, just go and have a look at the video I did with Gary Mumford about MOS, and then it's the previous one to this, so that should explain it all a bit more. So Helen, any more tips for people about how to create and sell these information products?
I mean, just the things I see people getting stuck on. I think I see a lot of people focusing 90% on creating the product and then 10% on marketing it. And actually, the creation, the first one, it's hard work, because you get halfway through and you get all this stuff in your head about this is rubbish, no one will buy it, and you've got to press through that. But the creation is only the first step. It's the marketing that is going to make you the money, and is going to make it all worthwhile. So don't kind of use up all your energy and time on creating it, because that's only the first half of it, if that, if not, it could be a load more of work on top of that. So yeah, keep that in mind. I think it's not, the nice thing about it all being digital, it's not set in stone. So if you put something out there and it's not a big hit, then you can use it as a bonus for a future product, or you can add something to it. You can make it. You can add a set of videos to it, some text, for example. So the nice thing is it's not set in stone. You can add, you can change, you can move it around as well. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think what we said, get a list, because what you're going to be doing is selling a series of whatever it is. It's not one ebook is not going to make you very much money. You're going to need to be keep creating, or have a membership site or a club of some kind where you're getting regular payments if you're going to get a decent income from it.
Yeah. So repeating, as you say, repetition of products is a really good idea, or a series of products. What's the best marketing technique, Helen?
I'm sorry, you kind of froze at the crucial point there. What was the best what?
What was the best marketing technique? What worked for you?
I don't really think it's a technique. I think it's, you've got to have a list. You've got to be continually getting leads onto that list in whatever format works for you. If social media is your thing, that's great. If Facebook ads get people on your list, that's great. And then you just need to keep giving them lots of good content, some of it free, and then occasionally you say, hey, I've got this new book or this new course, would you like to buy it? And so it's not really about a tip as such. It's about having a system and a strategy. That's what really makes the difference between the people who win ebook and sell 3 copies and the people who actually make a good living from this.
Yeah.
So it's all about strategy.
Yeah, very, very, very good advice. So what we're saying really is first of all research, and decide, really make sure that there is an audience for your product, and then you have to take the route of whether you build the audience first by blogging and all the social media stuff before you launch the product, or whether you launch the product and then find the audience for it. So there's 2 very distinct avenues there. And then the whole business of how you get it online, how you choose to sell it, and how you take the money are other things to be taken into consideration.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and I think it isn't just an either or with the, do you build the audience first or the product first? I think probably a bit of both, and continually keep improving and changing and adjusting based on what your audience tells you. So it's a real 2-way conversation, and you're always trying to meet the needs that they have. I think that's the best way to look at it.
Yeah, great. And I guess the overall message that we want to leave people with is that it's not easy, but it is doable with a little bit of persistence, and there is plenty of information out there for people to find on how to do all this stuff, isn't there?
Yeah, I think your own mindset and determination is probably the difference between success and failure, because the tools are there. Like I said, when I started software training in '97, I could have only dreamt about what's out there, and it's out there, and it's free or cheap as well. So it's a fantastic time to get in there. But what that means is there is quite a lot of competition, but you've just got to be better targeted. You've got to be really on the ball, and you've got to be better at listening to people than the average person out there who just thinks, yeah, I'm going to do a course or a book on this, and let's get it done and chuck it up on the Kindle store. You've got to be better focused and better targeted than those people, and really focusing on meeting people's needs. And I think that's the key thing.
Well, I think that applies to every business, whether it's online or not. So, again, that's really, really good advice. And as you say, the technology is changing all the time, and there are new tools coming online all the time. I mean, it's just incredible. How do you keep up with all the new developments and decide which avenues are best for you, which tools are right for you?
I don't think you can keep up with it all. And I think if you did, you'd spend all your time keeping up with this all and not doing anything useful. So I think I always try and keep in my mind, okay, what am I trying to achieve here? What is my goal here? What do I want to do for people here? And second, I look at, right, which are the tools that are going to enable me to do that? And then I look around for the tools. And I do spend a lot of time hanging around. Well, initially it was forums, now it tends to be Facebook groups, with people who do this and just listening to their own personal experiences of what works, what's good. Because some of these tools look great on the surface, but they won't carry you very far. Or some of them you get so far and then you get a whacking great fee you have to pay. So if you talk to people who've actually used them and just find the right tool for where you're at and what you want to do, and forget the rest for now, that's the best thing. Just use what you need right now, and don't pay too much attention to where you might be in 6 months' time. I know that sounds a bit strange. And it is a bit of a balance, of course, but yeah, you don't want to get sucked into playing with all the nice tools that are out there, because you'll never get anything done.
I think that's probably the best bit of advice I've ever heard about looking at these new tools, because people do. It is a big hole that people get sucked into, isn't it? That was just fantastic.
They do look at it the wrong way around. I see so many people, I mean, this goes with social media as well, I see so many people saying, okay, how do I use this tool? It's like, well, that isn't the question. The question is, I want to do this, which tool do I use, and how can it help me achieve my goal? So they look at it from the tools side, not from the goal and the strategy side, and that's the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, that's great.
You end up buying a load of tools and never using them. That's the other risk.
Yeah, yeah. Helen, tell people how they can get in touch with you if they'd like to ask you some questions. Yeah,
love questions. I'm all over social media, really.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way, So you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. That's the one I'll say because it's easiest. So I'm just Helen Lindop on Twitter. You can find me easy on there. If you go to helenlindop.com, you can get links to all my social media platforms, and just drop me an email or send me anything from there. Like I said, I'm really happy to talk to people because that's how you pick up what people's needs are and how you can best help them. So I really do see it as a two-way street.
Yeah, fantastic. Helen, thanks so much for joining us today. The recording of this interview will be going on my YouTube channel, and of course I'll be broadcasting that to everyone that I know, and you can pick it up from there, and you can also pick it up from Google+, and I'm sure Helen will be broadcasting it as well. So Helen, thanks again for joining us today. You've given us some fantastic advice, very practical and very, very useful.
Okay, thank you.
Speak to you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.